All right, and then we're going to take a look and we're going to say, all right, well, we see our line is here. We don't have any inspection stickers, so we're going to butt our antenna right up to the line. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look and we're going to say, okay, about right there looks nice. All right, so we've picked out our antenna spot. Now what we need to do is we need to remove all this plastic and the handle from the A-pillar. Of course, every vehicle is going to be different, but for this one, we're going to go ahead and pop off our our plastic covers here to expose our screws. We're going to remove the screws, which we've already done. Now what we want to do is we want to take our seal, our door seal, and just get your fingers worked in behind it and then just pull it down. So go ahead and pull it down out of the way, you know, as far as possible. And then the last thing is removing this A-pillar plastic. Now when you remove this A-pillar plastic, just be very, very careful because the clamps behind these are typically pretty delicate. So you want to make sure that you're not really forcing anything. Just put pressure on it until the A-pillar plastic pops. It will eventually pop, but just make sure that you're really not forcing anything and, you know, pull in any awkward direction. Typically they come straight down, so you want to kind of pull towards the side of the steering wheel as they'll come straight down once you apply some pressure. All right, so now that we know where our antenna is going, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here from the top of the plastic and I'm going to take my wire and I'm going to wrap it around. I'm going to hang my antenna down like this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my wire just back down into this plastic and behind the plastic in the A-pillar. So as I'm working my wire down my A-pillar, of course you can see what we're working with here. We have a clamp here, and then we have a piece of metal right here. So what I'm going to do is, while I can see this, I just want to make sure that my wire is not going to be crimped or cut or anything like that while I'm putting this back. So right now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to look and anticipate actually how this plastic is going to get put back into the A-pillar. So when I do put it back in, I don't cut or nick my antenna wire. The last thing that I will tell you, and this is probably one of the most important parts of antenna installation, is this vehicle is not equipped with A-pillar airbags. If your vehicle is equipped with A-pillar airbags, you will see a plastic channel that runs down here with an actual airbag stuffed inside of it. If your vehicle has that, we recommend that you take this wire and instead of running it this way, you actually push the connectors through and behind the airbag. You want to make sure that you get your connectors behind that plastic and then through and down, and that way your wire and everything is tucked behind the airbag. Because if you run that wire in front of the airbag and that vehicle's involved in an accident, it's more than likely going to hamper the airbag coming out, or it's going to rip an antenna off a windshield and create a flying projectile inside the vehicle that could really cause harm to somebody. So again, if your vehicle has side airbags, you want to make sure that this wire gets tucked behind that airbag, okay? Not in front of the airbag. All right, so now that I'm done and I've got my wire in place, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove the adhesive backing from my antenna, and I'm going to go ahead and put my antenna on the windshield. I'm going to go ahead and stick it in place, okay? So now that I've got that secure, I'm going to go ahead and take my wire and I'm going to run it behind all this plastic right here. You know, again, keeping in mind that I want to get it behind everything I possibly can so that I protect the wire when I go to put this back. And now I'm down to here. So what I want to do from here is I want to go ahead and remove my dash plastic. You know, again, depending on what kind of vehicle you have, it's going to be different for everybody. This one's fairly simple, but now I have an exposed dash. So here I have a little bit of a problem because I don't have an opening, which may happen on your vehicles. All I'm going to do is take my door seal and pull it down just a little bit more, and then I'm just going to kind of work my wire in under this plastic and around this piece of plastic like so, and then up through the dash. Okay, so now you see I'm done there. I can go ahead and I can put my seal back together like so. Go ahead and put my A-pillar back on. And again, these clips are delicate, so don't try to force anything. Just make sure you get it back in place as best you can. And then when you're done, just kind of look down through there and make sure that your wire's not crimped or anything like that before you go ahead and finish putting the seal back on. So now I'm going to take my seal and again try to put it on. The trick to the seal is, if it's disconnected from the vehicle down here, you want to start at one end where it's disconnected. Don't take your seal and start putting it back on up here, because what'll happen is you'll end up with a big gap somewhere in here and you'll end up having to go back and take it back down and fix it again. So start wherever it's disconnected, or right here. So that's the closest spot, and then just work it back up onto the door. And just continue to work it all the way around from one spot where it was disconnected all the way over to the other. And as you can see, once you get about 3/4 of the way done, the seal will actually start putting itself back in place. And you just want to make sure that it's seated well and you're complete. All right, so now I've got my antenna run to this point. So the next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and look under the vehicle's dash, or inside this dash compartment, and I want to see the best location where I can end up hiding this box. All right, so now that I'm under the dash, I'm going to go ahead and take a look, and I really don't have a lot of room here. It looks like I have a potential to possibly put a box here, or I could actually just stick the box right here if I felt like it. And as again, you can see there's not a whole lot of room to work with here. So I'm going to go ahead and choose my final resting spot for my box to be right in this area right here. So now what I want to do before I start anything else is I want to get my antenna wire again, and I want to get under the dash. And what I want to do now is I want to get my antenna wire over to the final resting place of my box. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look under the dash. I'm going to find as many wires as I possibly can to run my antenna wire over, because the more you run it over, the more secure that wire is going to be. It won't fall out of the dash. It has other things holding it in place. I don't recommend that you just push it in here and just start yanking on it to get it out of there. Make sure that you're helping it go through. You don't want to disconnect anything, pull a harness loose or anything like that. So now I've got my antenna wire pretty close to its final resting spot. I would probably go one more and run it over top of that wire right there. And now it truly is where it's going to be in its final resting spot, which is going to be right there. So I'm good on my antenna. I can go ahead and push that off to the side and get it out of my way for now. All right, now back to my OBD2 connection. So I see I've got my OBD2 connection here, just hanging down because we took it loose. So what I want to do is I want to push it under the dash, and the same thing I did with my antenna wire. I want to get it really close to my final resting spot, okay? So here it is. Now I've got it on the other side of the dash like so. And now I'm going to find my ribbon cable. And if you remember when we first pulled the ribbon cable out, we said that this was the existing OBD2 connection. Okay, so this connector is actually going to go into my factory OBD2 connection on my vehicle. So I just line up. You can only do it one way. So I line it up, push and pull at the same time, pull with this hand, push with this hand, make sure I'm connected and I'm seated pretty well. And now I've made my connection. Now, one step that we take after we do this is we actually take electrical tape and we will wrap it in a diagonal pattern around this wire to keep this connected. So you may want to do that. Grab you some electrical tape and wrap it around your ends from here to here, from here to here, and that'll keep this OBD2 connection secure once you push it in the dash, because in the end we're actually gonna push this up and tuck it up into the dash and zip tie it. All right, now I've got my long end and I've got my short end of my ribbon cable left. Well, the long end of the ribbon cable is going to end up plugging into my actual GPS unit. So I'm gonna move this over to the side for now. Now I'm gonna replace my factory connection with the shorter end of the ribbon cable. So what I want to do now is I want to take my long ribbon cable end in one hand and my short one in the other, and I just want to take my short one and I want to tuck it back down under the dash, or the same way the existing OBD2 connection came up under the dash. So I'm going to get it down like so. So my existing factory connection is still in this compartment, but now I've got a new OBD2 connection that's down here. And this is going to actually replace my factory OBD2 connection. So what I want to do now is I want to move this over into its place.